They called him the man who made America believe in beauty. Perfect jawline, perfect chaos. For 30 years, Brad Pitt was the silver screen's reflection of everything people wanted: youth, strength, control. But control is the first illusion Hollywood sells and the last one it lets you keep. He was born in Shawnee, Oklahoma, raised in Springfield, Missouri, a polite Southern boy with a church smile and a dream shaped like escape. His parents taught him discipline. The movies taught him desire. By his early 20s, he was driving west in a beat-up Datsun with $325 and the kind of optimism that makes you believe the sun only rises for you. It almost worked. By the time Thelma and Louise hit theaters, his 6-minute appearance turned into a prophecy. Every door opened. Every headline wanted him shirtless. But fame didn't feel like success. It felt like surveillance. Everyone loved the image. No one knew the man. The roles grew darker. Legends of the Fall, Seven, Fight Club, each one a mirror held up to a part of him he didn't want to name. He was the golden boy playing broken men, and audiences called it range. He called it confession. Then came marriage, mansions, and mythology. Brad and Angelina, Hollywood royalty, humanitarian saints, parents to the world. The tabloids called them Brangelina, a name so heavy it crushed the humans inside it. For a while, he played along. The Coors trips, the interviews about peace, the perfect family photos that looked staged by God. But behind the flashbulbs, something small and dangerous was growing: silence. He started waking up at 3 a.m., heart pounding, mind running through lists of what needed fixing. The roof. The kids. The foundation in Cambodia. The next film. Himself. Whiskey helped for a while, then stopped helping. He told himself he wasn't addicted, just a coping like any other man in orbit. Orbit became Spiral. During the filming of Fury, cast members noticed the change. Fewer jokes, longer takes, a bottle always half hidden near the trailer door. It wasn't scandal yet. It was exhaustion with better lighting. But Hollywood smells blood long before it bleeds. By 2016, the public divorce exploded, headlines feeding on pain disguised as news. Everyone had a theory. No one had the truth. He apologized, sobered up, started therapy, spoke of growth. And for a time, it seemed like redemption had finally arrived. Until 2023. Until the set of Solitude, the film that was supposed to mark his rebirth. And became the moment the world discovered how fragile rebirth really is. The comeback was supposed to be flawless. After years of therapy, sobriety, and soft-spoken interviews about peace, Brad Pitt had finally agreed to star in Solitude, an introspective psychological drama about a man stranded alone in the desert, haunted by his past. The irony wrote itself. Directed by an art house visionary, financed by a studio desperate for Oscar glory, Solitude was marketed as the resurrection of Brad Pitt. He trained for months, isolated in the Mojave, no entourage, no alcohol, no comfort. The tabloids called it a method acting. It was actually a relapse in disguise. Crew members later said it began quietly, the long silences between takes, the way he'd stare at the sand as if listening for something buried. One day he refused to come out of his trailer. Another, he walked off set mid-scene and kept walking into the desert until a security truck found him miles away, dehydrated and rambling about a noise that never stops. The director defended him. He is living the role. But insiders knew. The pressure, the isolation, the ghosts of everything he tried to outgrow were clawing back. It wasn't a performance anymore. It was confession with cameras rolling. Then came the night that changed everything. A production assistant, young, ambitious, terrified, leaked a 40-second phone clip to the press. The footage showed Brad on set, screaming at no one in particular, knocking over a prop light, then collapsing to his knees. It looked like rage, but the sound, roar, trembling, was grief. Within hours, it was everywhere. Headlines bloomed like bruises. Brad Pitt's on-set meltdown. Fury returns. Actor in crisis. The internet dissected it frame by frame, debating if it was real or part of the film. He stayed silent. His team denied everything. But the clip was too human to fake. 2 days later, production shut down. Officially, weather complications. Unofficially, breakdown. Brad flew home to Los Angeles, paparazzi waiting at every terminal. He looked smaller than the myth, beard grown out, eyes red, smile mechanical. He waved, said I'm fine, and vanished behind tinted glass. But he wasn't fine. Friends said he barely left his house for weeks. The whiskey bottles returned. So did the ghosts. For a man who'd built an empire on control, losing it in public was the final humiliation. When the clip resurfaced on YouTube under the title of Brad Pitt, the moment he snapped, it reached 5 million views in a day. Comments split between cruelty and concern. Some called it karma. Others called it collapse. He called it nothing at all. He shut his phone off, packed a single bag, and disappeared to France, to the old vineyard he once bought as a symbol of love. Now it was a fortress of echoes. There, among the quiet vines and empty cellars, he faced what Hollywood never forgives: stillness. The man who once outran every scandal couldn't outrun himself. He drank again, then stopped. Cried, then laughed. Wrote letters he never sent. One of them simply said, "Maybe I was never acting. Maybe I was just trying to stay human long enough for the camera to stop." No one saw him for months. Not the children, not the friends, not the industry that built him. The man who once filled screens disappeared into silence, and the silence began to speak back. France was supposed to heal him. It didn't. It just removed the alibi. The chateau in Provence, once a symbol of romance and blended family, now felt like an abandoned movie set. Too big, too clean, too full of memories he couldn't edit. He walked through echoing halls lined with photos he didn't have the courage to take down. Kids laughing. Him smiling. Sunlit tables. A life paused mid-frame. But the man in the photos wasn't the man pacing the stone floors at 3 a.m. in November 2023, barefoot, soberish, shaking. That man was tired. Not from work, from carrying an image. The first week he drank. The second he stopped. The third, the nightmares began. They weren't about fame or tabloids. They were about fathers. His own, quiet, hardworking, kind. Himself, trying, failing, forgiven, never forgiven. In the dreams he'd reach for a child and the child would turn into light. He'd wake up gasping, whispering, I'm here. I'm here. I didn't leave." But part of him always had. He talked to the walls, to the vines, to God, to no one. A housekeeper said later, anonymously, of course. He was polite. Always polite. But he looked like he was carrying grief in his shoulders. Grief and shame, a cruel duet. Because this time, the scandal wasn't a divorce, a custody fight, or a drunk night on a plane. This time it was weakness, the one thing Hollywood never forgives in its gods. He tried to paint. Tried to sculpt. Tried to make wine with obsessive precision, as if fixing the barrel could fix the heart. But every project dissolved into the same question. What if the camera was the only thing keeping me together? Then, one afternoon, a car pulled up the gravel road. Not paparazzi. Not studio. Not a lawyer. An old friend. One of the very few who knew the pre-myth Brad, the kid who slept on couches, who ate tacos for days, who wanted to act just to feel alive, not to be seen. They sat outside, two aging men under a pale sun, no assistants, no stylists, no press. Everybody thinks you snapped, the friend said. Brad laughed, dry, jagged. I didn't snap. I just stopped pretending the noise didn't hurt. You gonna go back? To what? To being Brad Pitt. Long silence. Then he said it, the line he'd been afraid to say out loud. I don't know who that is without people watching. That was the real crisis. Not alcohol. Not divorce. Not the leaked video. It was identity. He'd spent 3 decades performing masculinity, the strong, calm, unshakable American man. The man who always wins the fight, always gets the girl, always delivers the grin. But what happens when that man gets old? When the face doesn't match the myth? When the eyes carry too many apologies? He was 60. The body was still strong, the jaw still cinematic, but the soul had miles on it. At night he started writing. Not a memoir, a reckoning. Fragments. Confessions. Letters to his kids he might never send. Notes to younger actors, a don't chase the part that kills your sleep. Notes to himself, a love them louder than the work. Some pages were angry. At the assistant who leaked the video. At the studio that didn't protect him. At the press that called it another Hollywood diva tantrum. But most of the anger turned inward. Because deep down, he knew. The leak only showed what was already breaking. The lowest point came in January 2024. He'd gone 5 days without proper sleep. The winter light was thin, unforgiving. He caught his reflection in a dark window and didn't recognize himself. Not because of age. Because of emptiness. The man who once filled every room now took up no space in his own life. He called his therapist in LA. He said 5 words. I can't outrun it anymore. What? The boy. The husband. The father. The lies. The good parts, too. All of it. That was the pivot. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. No ambulance. No overdose. Just a man, finally tired of behaving like a statue, saying, I want to live, not be looked at. He went back to AA. Not the secret, private, celebrity version, the ugly fluorescent one, with folding chairs and burnt coffee. He sat with construction workers, teachers, a nurse, a kid barely 20. No one cared about Can. No one asked about 7. They asked, how many days? He said, E1. They clapped. It was the first applause in years that didn't feel fake. The world expected another apology tour. Brad Pitt gave them something quieter, absence. For nearly a year he refused scripts, interviews, premieres. He worked the vineyard like a farmhand, pruning, whorling, bottling. Neighbors said he looked a lighter. He laughed more, cursed less, wore the same boots until they tore. Each day ended the same way, a cup of tea, a call to his kids, a journal entry. Not about movies. About mercy. You can't edit the past, he wrote. But you can stop directing it. The studio panic didn't last. In Hollywood, silence is currency, and his bought intrigue. Rumors whispered. His writing a book. His joining a cult. His moving to Japan. None were true. He was learning to live without a script. When he finally resurfaced in mid-2024, it was at a small architecture exhibit in Berlin. No entourage, no PR. Just a man sketching lines of light across paper. A reporter asked if he'd act again. He smiled, not for the camera, but for himself. If I do, it'll be because the story needs me, not because I need the story. That September came the interview everyone had been waiting for. A single camera, one glass of water, no background music. He sat across from the journalist, hands open, voice calm. When she mentioned the leaked video, he didn't flinch. I wasn't angry, he said. I was terrified. For a minute I wasn't Brad Pitt the actor. I was just a man realizing the show was over. The clip went viral again, not for the meltdown this time, but for the stillness. People called it his redemption tape. He just called it truth. Work came back, slowly, art films, quiet roles. He turned down blockbusters, chose characters who aged, forgot, forgave. He produced more than he starred in. He mentored new directors, taught them how to protect their crews from the machine. He donated most of his salary from one project to a mental health fund for film technicians. When an executive asked why, he said, "Because they're the ones who see us break and still have to call action." That winter he invited his children to France. No press, no bodyguards. They cooked, laughed, argued, healed. One night his eldest asked if he missed fame. He thought for a long moment. Sometimes. But I don't miss who I was when I had it. The next morning they found him outside, pruning vines with his bare hands, humming. It wasn't performance. It was presence. When Solitude finally released, it was quietly, no premieres, just a streaming drop. Critics expected collapse. Instead, they found serenity. The film felt like a confession whispered into wind, one man alone, learning to forgive the sound of his own heart. It won nothing. But it moved millions. In an email to the director he wrote, "Thank you for letting me fall apart in public. Turns out that's the only way I could rebuild in private." By 2025 the tabloids were bored. No new scandals, no divorce, no rehab. Just a man who looked healthier, spoke slower, laughed softer. Aging gracefully isn't headline material. But for Brad Pitt, it was the loudest story of all. By 2025, the world had moved on. New faces, new scandals, new myths to crown and destroy. Brad Pitt's name still flickered across headlines now and then. Charity work, quiet cameos, an art exhibit, but it no longer roared. And that was the point. For the first time since he left Missouri, obscurity didn't feel like death. It felt like home. He still woke early. No assistants, no schedule. He brewed his own coffee, fed the dogs, walked the vineyards barefoot, the ground cool and forgiving beneath him. Neighbors waved. He waved back. No one asked for selfies anymore. They'd learned he didn't belong to the camera now. He belonged to the soil. He joked once with a friend. The vines don't care about your box office. They only care if you show up. And for the first time in decades, he always did. That spring, he returned to Los Angeles for a tribute event. A theatre played a montage of his career: the rebel in Thelma and Louise, the haunted detective in Seven, the bruised dreamer of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The crowd cheered like it was church. Brad sat in the back row, head bowed, hands folded. When the lights came up, someone asked if he'd like to say a few words. He walked to the microphone, looked at the audience, then down at his notes. He smiled. For a long time, I thought I was chasing roles. Turns out, I was chasing myself. I caught up, finally. And he's a quieter guy than I expected. Applause. Not thunderous, warm. He didn't linger. He left before the press line, drove through the night until the city disappeared in the rearview mirror. Back in France, he began filming again, not for fame, but for curiosity. A small independent film, shot on 16mm, about an aging sculptor who rebuilds broken statues. No explosions. No makeup. No illusion. Just a man, his hands, and time. He said the role felt like a breathing with purpose. Critics would later call it his finest performance. He just called it enough. In interviews, rare, soft-spoken, he began talking less about success and more about surrender. I used to think peace was something you earned, he said. Now I think it's what's left when you stop performing. He meant it. He turned down awards, skipped premieres, and spent his birthdays planting trees. Every seed, he said, was your take that never ends. There's a story his vineyard manager likes to tell. One evening, just before sunset, they found Brad sitting on a stone wall, sketchbook in hand. The light was golden, the air still. The manager asked what he was drawing. Brad held up the page. It was just a line, curving slightly downward. "Is that a horizon?" the man asked. Brad smiled. "No. It's me finally slowing down." The tabloids still try sometimes. Rumors of a secret engagement, a hidden memoir, a feud with an old co-star. He ignores them. He's not running anymore. He's walking, barefoot, steady, unguarded, through a life that finally feels real. He still carries the scars, the meltdown, the losses, the regrets. But they no longer define him. They remind him of the price of pretending, of the grace of pausing, of the truth that beauty, like fame, fades, but presence doesn't. Music, fade to silence, faint wind through the vines. Brad Pitt doesn't live in Hollywood anymore. He lives in time. And if there's one thing he's learned after half a century of motion, it's that peace isn't a comeback, it's a choice. He stopped running. And the world, for once, let him rest.